All right, starting the way I see it podcast on the Georgia Oklahoma game, trying to have a breakdown on Georgia. This is our the second part of us breaking down Georgia. So Georgia's coming out on defense. Auburn's coming out in that little burst huddle. It's kind of hard to get Georgia like that because they ain't doing a whole lot of stuff defensively. They're lining up and just whipping Auburn at the point of attack. I think this is going to be a big advantage for Georgia in this game. I think they're going to win the trenches. From what I've seen out of them so far, from watching Oklahoma, I believe that Georgia will beat Oklahoma at the point of attack.
This is going to be a heck of a game.
All right, that's a good formation for us to take a look at right there.
So what's Georgia in right there?
Hold on for a second. All right, so Georgia would be in that's what we would kind of call a nickel front for Georgia. So I expect to see a lot of this against Oklahoma. What they've done is they normally would have 7 guys in the box, 3 D linemen, and then they'd have 2 outside linebackers kind of walking up on the line and 2 inside linebackers. So what you're seeing right here is 3 D linemen, and they're playing one of the outside linebackers like a D lineman, and then 2 inside linebackers. So they've taken one guy out of the box, which is going to give them a nickel back. Okay? Now it looks like down here towards the bottom of the screen, that's called, a coach would call that to the boundary. That's the short side of the field. They may be in man. Now what you would be watching is this safety that's down to the boundary on the short side of the field. If he gets wider, that tells you that corner's about to blitz. If he doesn't get wider, then more than likely.
Or when the ball snaps? I mean, we don't know what the play is, but what's the quarterback? Who's he reading?
Well, that would be completely determined on what
play. Let's say, I don't know. I know it depends on what the play is. I'm trying to think of what past play was. What's he reading to determine what the coverage is? What I'm trying to get at.
Oh, okay. Well, he's going to be looking at the alignment of the safeties and the corners. So, like if you see that corner at the top of the screen, he's outside the receiver, and he's got his hip slightly open. So what that tells you is it's going to be some type of like cover 2 look, because when it's cover 2, you want to protect the outside because the safety's got further to go. You want to force that guy inside. Now, what this looks like to me is some type of combo coverage with possibly like some people may call this a cover 6, but it's a man coverage at the bottom, and it looks like some type of cover 2 shell up top. So he would be looking at that corner and the safety and their depth and all that kind of stuff. All right. And look who's there to make the play. Always.
Great defense.
Yep, great defense. And, so we had man down here at the bottom. They try to sneak him back out to that side. That's good coaching. But, Roquan's not having any of it. I was super impressed with Oklahoma's offense. I am just as impressed with Georgia's defense.
As impressive as Baker Mayfield is, and he is impressive, Roquan's just as impressive.
All right, so here's another good look for us to see. This is trips for so we got trips for Georgia. Trips for Auburn. Now they're bringing a guy in motion. It's 3rd and really long. So this is going to be a complete passing coverage for Georgia. Only having 5 guys in the box. And they just run their little.
You got Carter, and there's Roquan.
Carter just ran down. What's that back for Auburn's name? The leading rusher in the SEC.
Kerryon?
Yeah, Kerryon Johnson. He just got ran down by a 245-pound outside linebacker / defensive end.
Carter's something else.
He's special. He is special.
This Georgia defense is legit. There's no doubt about that.
No, it's a national championship caliber defense.
It really is. It really is. When you have this type of defense offensively, all you need to do is what Georgia does.
Right. And you don't have to be crazy with what you do defensively.
No, you don't. They remind me of that Chicago Bears team that lost in the Super Bowl. That all year long they ran 5 defenses.
Well, you're not seeing a whole lot out of Georgia. Now, some of their coverages are complex, but what I like about them is they're going to be lined up right.
They're always in position,
and they so they line up correctly, and one of the reasons it's easy for them to line up correctly is because they're not doing a lot.
Yeah, they don't do much.
Defensive fronts and things like that, and they're really good tacklers in space.
Great tacklers.
I tell you what, now.
Great tacklers.
If you sit here and say, if we can sit here and say that Georgia's going to win in the trenches, and I believe that, and you feel like they're going to be the better running team, and I believe that, it's kind of hard to think they would lose.
It is. I mean, as crazy as ball is now, all the different things you see, it still comes down to blocking and tackling.
It absolutely does.
And Georgia looks like they do that as good as anybody.
Yep, they do. And Georgia, to me, is if they can dominate you up front, it's hard to stop them. Now, if Oklahoma can get any kind of stalemate up front, Georgia's going to have a hard time moving the ball, I believe. Now, Georgia may have overall better players. Baker Mayfield evens things up a lot because he is so good at doing what Oklahoma does offensively.
Oklahoma's skill guys
they're good. They are, and Georgia's is too.
Yeah, Georgia's is.
It's one thing to sit around with your friends and family and watch a game and halfway pay attention and halfway not. It's another thing to kind of really examine what's going on. And Georgia's got players all over the field.
They do. They have athletes everywhere.
That's a slip screen. It's one of my most favorite plays in the world. They're just going to run routes with receivers and try to have a little bit of window dressing and then get the back out into space with blockers in front of you. Really, Georgia's good.
And you've seen neither team take a lot of chances on offense.
No.
So I don't think you'll see many turnovers in this game.
Oh, you're talking about the Oklahoma-Georgia game?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Oklahoma scores a lot, but you kept talking about how a lot of their plays are safe plays, safe throws.
To me, what Georgia does is more risky offensively, not the running.
Right.
But when they ask for him to throw the ball, he doesn't throw the ball near as much as Baker Mayfield, but the percentage of his throws are much more dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And there's Central Florida who Auburn will be playing in the bowl game.
It's going to be a good game. That's going to be a good game. I don't expect to see Central Florida score 62 against Auburn.
No, sir. I don't think that's going to happen because Auburn's legit too.
Yeah.
All right, Georgia's coming out to punt the ball, and I'll say this right here: Georgia is they may be the most complete team in the country.
They really may be.
There's really no aspect of football where they seem to be bad to me. They're really good in the most important parts.
They're the most important parts of what they do the best.
Right. So they're really good on the offensive and defensive line. They're really good at tackling. They're really good at tackling.
They're as good a tackling college football team as you want to see.
Yep. And I like the simplicity of what they're doing defensively.
I do too. I think simple defense is effective when you know your role and you execute the best defense.
Right. Now Georgia coming out again, and they're very. I mean, Roquan Smith makes every. I really, I'm trying to think when I've seen a player that makes a higher percentage. It seems like he makes every tackle.
Every tackle.
It's absolutely amazing. Ooh, that was almost a big play for Georgia right there.
Yes, it was.
And that's when that exact play happens 10 times. 5 of those times is going to the house for Georgia. And Auburn was to catch them a little bit off guard right here, but they were in position, just missed the play. All right, Georgia's coming back, and you're kind of seeing they've got 2 what I would call base defenses, and one is their 3-4, and their other is their nickel, where they're sliding, using a linebacker as a 4th D lineman, and they're taking a linebacker out and bringing a nickel back in. I really think against Oklahoma, that's going to be their primary defense. You see it right there.
Right here.
Like a 4-2. I think that'll be what you see primarily against. Now, see, but they can walk that guy down. So they can take that nickel back and they can walk him down as an outside linebacker. That position has become the premier position in a lot of the new modern defenses. Some people call it the star or the jack or the cold or all different kind of names, but it's that hybrid guy that can be a safety or an outside linebacker type guy, because that allows you to have a 5-man shell to stop the pass or walk that guy down and get that extra guy in the box. I think that will be what you see Georgia do against Oklahoma more than anything else, because to try to combat Oklahoma's passing game. Now,
and back to Baker Mayfield, he goes through his progression so fast.
Right.
It's going. This matchup is going to be just spectacular.
Yeah, and so what you're going to see Georgia, what I'm sure their defensive coaches have been working on, is figuring out ways to dial up pressure without bringing more guys. Mm-hmm. So, they're going to bring at least 4 every play, but you may see things going on where.
But Mayfield's so fast that you can't leave a hole in your defense.
No, but you can't. That's why it's going to be important for those interior defensive linemen for Georgia to just whip the guy in front of them. Mm-hmm. You're going to see those guys being asked to get really big pushes up the field to try to make Mayfield as uncomfortable as possible. He's also slightly undersized too. Mm-hmm. So the more push they get, they're going to be asked to get their hands up and all, that kind of. That's going to be
the battle you got, sir. Because Oklahoma's offensive line is no slouch either.
No, now it looks like Auburn's got Georgia outflanked right there. Oh, you see Georgia Caesar right there. Mm-hmm. So they just checked to it.
Yeah.
Georgia was misaligned for a second. There's some rough stuff going on in the trenches right there. Very physical. And hats off to Auburn. I mean, in the span of 4 weeks, they played Georgia twice and Alabama once, and went 2-1.
It went 2-2 with all of them.
And you're talking about seriously physical games. Them guys are just taking on blocks, just killing each other in there.
I expect the Oklahoma-Georgia game to be physical.
Oh, it's going to be physical.
Yeah, it's that Oklahoma is.
It's going to be physical. Now, I do think that Georgia is going to kind of take the attitude of they're going to try to see if Oklahoma can handle the physicality that Georgia's going to bring to them.
I think Oklahoma is going to embrace it.
I'm sure they will. It's one thing to embrace it, a week before the game. It's another thing to embrace it when you get hit in your mouth over and over again.
I agree, but the reason I say that is because we talked about it before, but Oklahoma, the same things that are being said about Oklahoma now was said when they played FSU in 2011 and Alabama in 2014, and they brought it both of those games. I mean,
that's true.
When they played Alabama, they looked like the harder hitting team. I mean, that was a physical game, but there wasn't And I'm expecting them to, when your manhood's being questioned by everybody,
Right.
that makes you really dig in and find it.
That's right. I mean, what you're saying is true, but like I'm just saying, it's easier. It's going to be easier for Oklahoma to say it than do it.
Right.
Because I know what Georgia's going to do from a physicality standpoint because I'm watching it.
Yeah.
I mean, what you see that linebacker taking on that block of that tackle?
Mm-hmm.
Those are things you don't see, but that was a major collision between a linebacker and somebody that outweighed by 100 pounds.
Right.
So I see, I know what them guys are going to do for Georgia. And I think I know.
Yeah, I'm pretty
Oklahoma's
confident what
gonna do.
Oklahoma's going to do. I've seen them play these teams when they beat Florida State in 2000. They heard the whole time they wasn't physical enough, and they beat it.
Right. What I feel like I can say is, I know that if Georgia doesn't get pressure on Baker Mayfield, he's going to torture him. I know that. I know that Georgia is going to be super physical in the trenches. I feel like I can say I know Georgia's going to run the ball. You know, those are things that I think I know.
After watching Oklahoma yesterday, I felt Oklahoma's probably the better team. After watching Georgia today, I think Georgia's probably the better team. I mean, that's how good these two teams are. That they are really close.
Right. They are. I can see it be a final possession of the game type of game.
Mm-hmm.
I just have no idea who's going to win. Go ahead and pause it, Jake. All right, guys. It's got Auburn, making another drive. Georgia's dropped back into their kind of base, 3-4 look, bouncing out. So when you're seeing spread, let me. There's Roquan with another aggressive tackle. It seems like every play, but what I'm seeing from a tendency standpoint is when Georgia is facing 4 wide receivers, they're automatically going nickel.
They're going to see a lot of 4 wide receivers in so far. Almost every play, it seems like it was.
Almost every play. All right, that was a trick play right there by Auburn. That was what people used to call a polecat. They had a tackle out, and so kind of had like a group of 4. And Georgia handled it very well. One of the reasons that Georgia can handle those type of things well, because they're not doing they're not asking their guys to do multiple looks. They're just, they're just doing what they do really well. So let's kind of say, usually 3rd and 6 is a time when you would say pressure brought. They've only got 5 guys and all at the line. So they bring 4, and it's a matchup zone. The reason I know that's a matchup zone is because the linebacker that dropped back was facing us. Let's see if I can show that to you.
The matchup zone, explain that a little bit.
Is that the right spot? Dadgummit. Pause it. All right. So we're talking about how do you know what's a matchup zone when you see it? So I'm gonna try to point out to you right here. So it's 3rd and 6, and Auburn's down in the red zone. It's a big spot for Georgia. Georgia feels like Auburn's going to throw the ball right here. So this is the perfect time to see some type of zone blitz or something along those lines. So you see there's 5 guys for Georgia up at the line of scrimmage, all right? Now when Auburn snaps the ball, you see one of those right there where the little paw symbols that one linebacker, I think that's Roquan, he comes out. So four guys come, one guy bumps out, and you see he is looking for the crosser. I know it's a matchup zone because he's looking for the man that's coming in his zone.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and he takes, and then he goes with him. So it was a great look, great. I mean that was maybe the biggest play in the game, and it came because they confused Stidham right there. He thought he had one thing.
Now we saw Mayfield in that TCU game when TCU ran the same defense. Basically, they ran that matchup zone, and Mayfield hit him with a 60-yard touchdown. You remember that play?
I do. And look, I mean, it doesn't mean that every time Baker Mayfield sees a matchup zone, he's going to be a big
exactly.
play. You know,
but I mean, I'm just saying, you're seeing two teams that do what they do really, really well.
Really good, and it's it's personnel,
right?
And it looks like I think it was Roquan that was covering that cross,
Yeah,
so then he goes and I think he recovers the fumble.
No way, dude.
Yeah,
got so good.
He is really good. All right, there's a toss sweep again. It's a power toss with two lead blockers. It's going to be a pin and what would be called pin and pull. So they're going to try to, you see Georgia do this over and over again. Try to pin down on the edge and then pull some lead guys and just let the back get in the alley. Pin, pull. Run the play 2 times in a row. And a lot, when you're playing, like you grew up playing Madden and stuff like that, you always want to run to the wide side of the field. Well, a lot of times at this level, you see teams run the ball to the short side of the field because a lot of defenses slant to the wide side of the field. So you see a lot of toss plays into the boundary because of that. All right. Georgia's just running like a little spacing route right there, or it could be like some people call them quick curls. And it's just trying to find an opening spot and get rid of the ball quick. It's not the kind of stuff what you saw Georgia do right there. You don't see that as much. I said their offense is a little dated, but it works because they're so good at running the ball.
Mm-hmm.
So they're asking Fromm to hold on to the ball. Those are routes that take a long time.
So they're asking, and he's not holding on to the ball because he's not sure what's going on. They're running routes that take a while.
It takes a while. I mean, you can look this guy.
Yeah.
You see, I mean that's taking a long time. Now, he could get rid of it a hair sooner, but not much. I mean, that's a 15-yard out.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a while to do that.
I've been impressed with Fromm watching this game.
Oh yeah, now that right there is more what Georgia's good at because it's predicated on how good they are at running the football.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna put the ball in the running back's stomach, and they're gonna run a slant with the slot, and that linebacker's got the place that's gonna open up that hole. That's when Georgia's at their best in the passing game. They're going and see the thing about Georgia is they can just run zone, run it, and get yardage because of how good their backs are. Their line's really good, and their backs give you. We talked about with Oklahoma, they do all those little screens, and they feel like it's safe, but it's a chance for a big play every time they do it. Well, that's exactly what Georgia feels like when they run the power G, or they run inside zone, or they run their toss sweep. They just want to give those back swings at the plate, and they know they got home run hitters. So the more chances they get, they know there's going to be some home runs hit in there.
Georgia has home run hitters who looks like at every place it's going to touch the ball on offense. Their receivers can get up and make plays. I know how good their tight end is.
Right. They're really good all over the field, and they are especially good. They've got 3 or 4 backs that could start for 95% of the schools in the country.
Absolutely. Their backfield is impressive, and they all do certain things really well. They all bring a different aspect to it. That's good for us.
Yeah. From's better. To me, their strength in the passing game is more what I hate using this word, that's what everybody says, but the pro style type passing attack where he's putting the ball to somebody's stomach and taking a 7-step drop. His arm is much stronger than I realized.
That's what I was just sitting here thinking. I didn't realize he had this strong of an arm. Well, he's throwing missiles a long way.
Good call. Touchdown.
Yeah, there's that Nana.
Yeah,
great.
Really good tight end, and they remember how we said earlier that when you see that bunch formation, everybody tight, expect to run wide, so they do that, and they fake the toss.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the kind of game within the game. Everybody's in here tight. They're gonna bring some motion. So like the crackback stuff. That is a well designed. They had 2 guys up before touchdown.
Yeah.
And that touchdown was made earlier in the game, based on what they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
That's really good play calling by Georgia. Good execution, and you can kind of feel this game right now. Old Mo's turning a little bit. You can see that the Bulldogs are feeling good about themselves, and Auburn is a little nervous. Guys, I think that's a good place for us to stop it.
I could see Georgia. We got a couple minutes. I could see Georgia handling that Oklahoma defense. I think they'll handle Oklahoma's defense. I think Auburn's got a better defense than Oklahoma. I could see Georgia's offense really taking control and doing what they like to do against Oklahoma's defense. I'm not saying Oklahoma's offense won't do the same.
Right.
It's going to be tough. They've got their work cut out for them to move the ball on this Georgia defense, but they've got Baker Mayfield.
I see it being a very evenly matched game, and I kind of think it's going to come down to who's got the ball last after kind of breaking the film down a little bit.
I think so, too.
Guys, I appreciate y'all listening to us.
And we'll do Clemson, Alabama at some point. We'll get it up.
And if you got any questions, put them in the comments. See y'all later.